So this was an interesting hand. It looks like Assassinato kind of lost his mind a little bit here. Raise pre-flop and then bet 3-bet the flop with 7-9 on King 5-4 with no backdoors or anything. I think sometimes it's really frustrating when you get check min raise like this. You know, you're just like, God, I know he could be doing this with such a wide range, and it's so bad for me. All right, so we shove with ace queen here. We get called by fives. You know, like obviously, I think both of us played our hands fine, and it looks like I'm gonna win the flip, so that's good. But you know, he certainly didn't. He didn't make a mistake by calling, and obviously, I didn't make a mistake by shoving ace queen. So yeah, I think sometimes it's a little too tempting to play back at these check min raises when, I don't know, maybe they just have it most of the time. You know, you're gonna get bluffed sometimes, and that sucks. But like, they tend to just have it, and so you know, maybe it's all right to not kind of spaz out against it. But you know, I certainly don't hate it. Like, if the guy has anything but a pair of kings plus, he's gonna have to fold it when Assassinato 3-bets the flop. Like, that's obviously a really strong looking raise from Assassinato. But and I agree with Assassinato shutting down after that. I think you have to shut down. I mean, you know, you can't just blindly fire the rest of your stack in, drawing dead, and cross your fingers the guy folds. So anyway, that was a good flip for us to win. We're back up to 30 big blinds. And here Jay Benya opens under the gun. I definitely wouldn't expect him to be stealing there under the gun ever. Like, I think he's going to have some legitimate hand when he raises there under the gun. And actually, I wouldn't expect him to c-bet this flop light ever. Like, I expect him to have at least like a pair of jacks on the flop when he bets there. I think probably c-betting that flop with air is a mistake, because it's two ways. This is a sort of flop that tends to hit flat callers fairly decently. You know, there's going to be a lot of king queens and queen jacks and tens and jacks, stuff like that in the flat callers range. So it's not the type of hand you necessarily want to fire into three players if you're bluffing. And then, so we go bet flop, Leo calls, check turn, and then Benya looks like he tries to get a small value bet in here on the river, betting, you know, maybe 40% of pot or so, and Leo raises. And I would expect Leo to have slow played the 9 here on the turn every time. Or maybe, you know, obviously have even stronger than that, but I think at a minimum he'd have a 9 there. And I mean, it's a pretty cool turn check. I'm not sure with his image if he maximized value there. Maybe if he bets turn, he gets Benya's whole stack. But you know, who knows? But I definitely think Benya had something there, and folded it on the river. I wouldn't expect him to be trying to bluff the river against, you know, the sort of unknown big stack. I think that's, you know, like, typically not the most winning proposition. I really like all the Brazilian rails. I think they're a lot of fun. I was in PCA this past year, and on my day one of the PCA, I guess there were a lot of Brazilians playing, so randomly you would just hear like cries of "Vamos" go up through the room, and it would sort of bounce through the different tables. It was pretty fun. But I like those guys. I think the Brazilians have like a really strong poker community, and we get an unlikely walk here, which is nice. And community is pretty important in poker because, you know, obviously it can be a tough game a lot of the time. If it folds to us here, we'll raise on Belaboxy. Again, it's like I think we win the blinds a decent amount of the time, and the times that he does elect a flat call, we have a hand that can improve, like isn't complete garbage. So we would steal there. This is actually, though, I would say this is a pretty good final table. Like, I'm pretty happy about this final table. We've got. I really have only played a lot with 3 of these guys. This mLagoo, Assassinado, and Belaboxy. All the others were unknown to me before this tournament. Jay Benya kind of rings a bell, but I don't know him. So that's good. Like anytime you can make a final table with that many unknowns these days, that's a pretty good thing. I probably won't record the whole final table. Of course, that's being optimistic that I would make it through the whole final table. We'll see. I'll probably record for the next 15 minutes and have an hour-long recording, and then just leave that. Or I should say a 55-minute long recording, just because the 5-minute downtime is pretty boring. But at least we did get to throw a a random kind of super spazzy 3-bet in there and desperately try to justify it with some math. It's up to you guys whether you kind of agree with that math or not. I'm pretty sold on it. Obviously, I was willing to pull the trigger on the final table bubble, but it's up to everyone to sort of decide whether you can see the math. The math itself is simple, right? It's laid out there for you. So it's just a matter of deciding whether you think the assumptions are right, and if you don't think they are, then that's fine. But I obviously do. So we open here. We have an ace blocker. We're opening on the button. So we steal the blinds there a pretty big percentage of the time. Something I talked to my students about, and I think is like a pretty important theory to maybe remember, is when you're stealing the blinds. Here we're gonna fold. If this were a late position open, like say it was his cutoff and our big blind, I would shove here. But I don't expect his range to be too wide here, opening on the big stack. Like I don't think he's just gonna be trying to steal the big stack's big blind. So I think he's gonna have a decent hand, like maybe not always a hand he's going to raise call us with, but a pretty decent hand. And obviously a large percentage of those pretty decent hands are ones that he will raise call us with. Sorry, I was talking before about stealing the blinds, and a pretty important concept is when you make it 2.5 times the big blind, you're 9-handed with antes. You're essentially like betting the size of the pot to win the pot. Right, there's about, right now it's 8-16, and there's about 40k in the pot pre-flop. I think it was 38-4. So what that means is, in a vacuum, pre-flop, you need to win the blinds 50% of the time, or more than 50% of the time, to make a profit. So we're going to open here. We're going to call a shove from French Fish, call a shove from Assassinado. And I think we have to shove over mLagoo here. He's just, if you see, he's like a pretty aggressive player. Raises a decent amount from early position. We have 7s. It's just a little too strong to do anything but get it in here. And unfortunately his 9s. But we do bink a 7, so that's pretty good. That was lucky. I think against an aggressive player like that, especially with the prevalence of sort of under the gun stealing these days in MTTs, I don't really see how I could do anything but shove there with 20 big blinds. I think that's the play.